Any minute. Oh, there we are. Now we're going live.
Yay.
Welcome to the awkward stall portion of the show, my friend. So we're just going to wait for people to join us. So while we do, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing really good, Jody. It's great to see your beautiful face and love your hair.
What's on your hat?
Oh, just a little fishing symbol.
Fishing.
A little real tree, a little shot, a little kind of memorabilia for my Montana friends that might be watching.
I'm like, who do we give a shout out to sponsor us in the future? Yeah.
Love it.
I haven't seen you in person for a while. I mean, thanks to COVID, we haven't seen each other for a little bit. And like your hair got so long.
Yeah, my COVID hair to match my 17-year-old. So I don't know whose is longer now. And he's a boy. He just had it cut and I'm like, he's missing half of him.
Yeah, Hayden got a haircut yesterday too. And it looked like the hair on the floor. And he still left quite a bit on.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like a whole head of hair. I'm like, there's at least 3 guinea pigs on the floor here. I don't know. How do you have so much hair? It's so crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. It's like we just feel like, it's a whole new experience seeing somebody, right? And talking. Imagine when we can actually do that in person, right?
I know. I was saying the other day to someone, I think I had Jake Matthews on a Fun Friday a couple of Fridays ago, and we were talking about how we almost have to retrain how to be socially acceptable again in person. We're going to have conversations because we'll just be like, okay, I'm not frozen. And then we're like, good COVID joke? No. Like, I don't know. I think we're going to be awkward.
It is. It's going to be the weird thing is going to be everyone's going to walk around like there's a bubble around them.
Yeah.
An invisible bubble, right? And they're not going to want to go down the aisle if somebody's there. Oh, sorry.
But I think, though, the positive that I'm taking from it is those who were socially awkward before COVID. Now's your time to shine, my friend. You are going to lead the way in how we get through this.
Exactly. That's a great way to look at it, Jody. I love your attitude.
So it's your time. It's your turn to lead. We all take turns in the leader space, right? So this will be their turn.
And it's their time. It's their time.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got Trellis is with us. Good morning. Hi, Trellis. Kathy Cooey is here. Good morning, April. Hi, Donna. Hi, Cheryl. The gang's all here. Oh, you know what I forgot to do that I'm going to do while we're talking? Hang on. I gotta type something. So bear with me for a second because I'm going to do this. This is my typing music. Narrow road home. Save this. And then I'm going to go like this. Look at this. Ta-da!
Oh, beautiful. You got spelling right.
On the fly. I'm like, did I spell it right? That's the catchy part. Okay. Well, let's get started. Welcome to Virtual Coffee Club. This is, of course, Fun Friday, where we get the opportunity to meet brand new friends that come and join us in Coffee Club and have a little convo with us. So I'm very excited to introduce to Coffee Club my good friend, my soul sister, Kim Engbrecht from Narrow Road Home. Kim, welcome to Virtual Coffee Club.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here, and I love the fact that I've been introduced as a soul sister. That's precious. So that's
awesome. You 100% are. From the moment we met, we knew it. It was like,
yeah, kindred spirits on the radio there. That was pretty awesome.
And that doesn't happen. I mean, I think I connect with people on interesting levels all the time, but not deep connections don't happen every single time you meet people. But they did with you, and we became fast friends. And I loved that I have the opportunity over the years to support the work that you're doing, really in the community of High River, but ultimately you're doing it anywhere because the door is open to anyone who needs it. And I thought we could take a minute for anybody who hasn't had the great opportunity to meet you before to learn a little bit about the work you're doing with a place called Narrow Road Home.
Awesome. All right. That's exciting. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what is Narrow Road Home? We have people that join Coffee Club from all over the world, so they may not have heard of you before.
All right. Well, that's super exciting. Yeah, it's a wonderful platform, by the way, that you have, Jody, and just the way you spend time because you just really care. You just have that kind of heart. Narrow Road Home was opened, probably 8 years ago. The journey began of just a response to a big God nudge that women were really hurting. It was after the flood. Just I had women that I was taking into my home from here and even from the US, just sort of for a couple of months at a time that, had just been struggling. So I guess in a way I was doing interventions for a couple of years, a few years. I have a social work background, had done some graduate studies in master's in counseling, and just kind of had always had a heart for women, the broken and the lost, and children. Years before, I had worked in the school board. I was a family liaison, family support worker. Just, that was just something huge on my heart, and had been overseas as well in Romania, working in orphanages as a young woman. And just that always just was a draw that I had. So I had this big old house in High River, this historic home that was formerly a healing home anyways. It had been a nurse's residence in its past. And after this devastating flood happened, I was just never going to go back to Narrow Road, or to the house, the brick house. And that was kind of when I got that real God nudge, when I didn't know where I was going to send these women. I had to still work full time. I was a single mom, didn't know really what I was going to do, didn't have the finances to help them. And just one by one, those doors opened. That this is why I got this big old brick house, was to make it a healing home for women and children. The byproduct is families are restored. And so it wasn't a very long, I always thought this process would be long, and that's why I have a strong faith in God, that those doors kind of flung open, where we had 100% of High River Council approval within about 6 months of the vision. And finances, like I said, I didn't really have any at the time. And one by one, just angels popped into my life to donate a fence or the yard work, or, Timothy, Fred's, Sherry and Tim. I showed up one day and the house from top to bottom was furnished. And that was just, I didn't even really know them at the time. So that was just, and they didn't really know me. So they took a really big leap of faith, going, who's this crazy blonde lady that said she's going to open this, treatment center in the middle of town, who I'd worked with in addictions. I'd had my own history, through family and my personal journey of brokenness and loss and grief and escapism. And the next thing you know, I was sitting there and 15 women were between the two houses that we had on McLeod Trail, going, okay, God, I guess you're going to show me what to do here now.
Okay, now what?
And granted, I had a little experience, of course. I didn't go in totally green, but nothing could actually, in the years, I did work in the prison system for quite a few years in Montana. I was I worked at different women's shelters, but nothing could prepare you for the boots on the ground, living with you 24/7, living in the home with the staff, and then finding the right people who had the heart for this. They could really take the heartbreaking blows of women coming from all sorts of pasts, that someday they love you, some days they hate you, some days you're a cult leader, some days you're their hero. It's been a pretty wild journey.
Well, and recovery is an interesting dance, regardless of who. And I don't know if you had the opportunity, because your time is so packed, but a couple of weeks ago, we had a gentleman join us on Coffee Club who he chose to celebrate his 2-year soberversary by hanging out with us. Rhett was on the show.
Yeah.
And what a really, same thing, like the struggles are real and the journey is wild, but it can be done, but it definitely has its ups and downs. And I think it's, it took a huge amount. I mean, I know you talk about your God nudge and your step into faith, but it also takes a huge amount of courage to step into this world, because it's an up and down and all the time. And so as a recovery center, just in case people wonder how it works, so just like any sort of other recovery facility or treatment center, people traditionally pay to come and get treatment, to go through a program to help with their recovery. That's kind of the brass tacks of how it works. Only you guys do it a little bit different.
Yeah, we do. It certainly wasn't how I started things. I had mentored under and I kind of gone across Western Canada. I'd gone and stayed in some treatment centers on the coast. Those ones actually worked with women from East Hastings. And that was really my inspiration, is working with the women from the streets. And a lot of them actually became some of our first clients. And the greatest advice, the woman was in her 70s that was running the program. And she said, whatever you do, she said, make sure the women have skin in the game, and you don't offer this for free, for completely free. Okay, that if they can find money for the drugs and be very resourceful and sometimes obviously manipulative in addictions, then they have to want this more than anything. And so that became that interesting journey that I think we're pretty good at now, but not knowing, some days how are we going to keep going, because we would take women, maybe sometimes it was just the $200 they had, and making sure they could still pay, if they had a phone bill or something, or sometimes it's just, usually it's Alberta supports, or, the welfare, essentially is the word that a lot of people use, check that they get every month, that is, they're at least putting that in for their room and board. And then the program we give as a gift, essentially. When there is families that can pay, it's wonderful. The average is about $2,500 a month, which is a lot less than, originally it was higher. I thought, we didn't know exactly what the costs were going to be. And then I wanted to make it as barrier free as possible from coming in. And, it was interesting because then I would go and see these other private treatment centers and they were 20 to 36,000 a month. And I couldn't quite wrap my head around how that could add up, with what they were offering versus, families having to remortgage their homes. And so I feel like we've landed in a great place where if a family can afford it, that's wonderful, but really on that sliding scale, because then we either find private sponsors, or of course we have the crepery and the tea house, which has been, and our clothing store, which has been what's been able to keep us going all these years.
Well, and I think that's the interesting piece is the business of helping people can create a lot of confusion and a lot of misunderstanding, because I think it's a hard thing, I think, for the average person to wrap the brain around what charity work looks like,
right,
and what the business of recovery looks like. And the two intertwine together quite beautifully all the time, because you're going to try to help people regardless. You have that drive, desire, and calling to help people. But I like that you bring up that example of having skin in the game. And when I think the most understanding probably comes, and maybe I'm stepping out on a limb and I don't want to speak for the people who don't understand, but I would feel like a lot of the misunderstanding comes from not understanding how addiction works and how it affects people and how it affects that role and that outcome. And you sort of alluded to that a little bit in there can be, and it's not, again, we're not stereotyping every person with an addiction in the world, but there can be like the drug is a demon, or the alcohol or whatever it is, and it twists you, and there's that manipulative factor. And so the pieces that you're doing work and help more than the average person, I think, can understand. Is that fair? Is that right?
That's a really great way to say that, because of course I've had to have that balance between public perception and also meeting the needs of women, which is my number one goal foundationally, right? Is that we meet the needs of these women that are broken and are lost. And, like I said, when we first began, the fees were higher, right? And because we weren't known, we didn't have the crepery, we didn't have the tea house, but I still think it's important if a family wants to be involved. We have a huge family component. And so we didn't get here alone in our life and our journey. And so when families are willing, I'm doing evening sessions, weekend sessions, when we could, we had, the family come right in, and it's about restoration, talking about generational patterns, owning behaviors that we've learned from mom and dad that have actually had that triggering effect even on the woman and the client, and that we need to actually address that, tell the truth, and have an authentic relationship moving forward. Because quite honestly, so many families don't talk, don't process, and have no clue even who this person really truly is at a heart level.
Yeah. Well, you've touched on two other things that I wanted to kind of talk about, because I really admire having watched this process happening, because I get kind of this, I don't know if it's a front row seat, but you definitely invite me to sit shotgun as much as I can to see some of this in play, is that you're extremely resourceful, Kim, and you have a great business mind, and you're an exceptional entrepreneur, and you were like, okay, how can I continue to help more people? What can we do to build on that? And how can I build something that feeds back into what you're doing? And so the first thing that you did was you developed Narrow Road Crepery, which is, my goodness, if you are from High River and haven't been, please go. If you're not from here, put it as a destination thing, because these crepes are to die for. Like, I dream about them at night, but sidebar, like a squirrel thinking about. But you started with the crepery. So can you tell us a little bit about what the purpose and process that happens there is?
Sure. Well, like, so I have to be completely transparent here that I don't even know how to make a crepe. I've never made a crepe. You know, I'm just so, we were so blessed actually with this because we didn't have any money to do this. And so I just also thought, what is not in High River? You know, what is something that's going to be different, you know, that's not just a coffee shop, but is actually something unique and can be, you know, yeah, just a different destination that people can come to and not take away from some of the other things. And so it was actually at a basketball game. I'd kind of been working with a family and sort of helped them with a family member through treatment. And this amazing man, Greg Gutek, and his team from Partners Development came to us and said, you know, what's your vision? What's your dream? And they actually built that for us. We, you know, everything from the ground up. You know, and Sherry and Tim bought the building, and they've always been such faithful supporters. And so the next thing you know, 3 months later, we had this beautiful crepery, and I said, "Oh, we better learn how to make crepes." But
Cool. Yeah.
the cool thing is just people that came out of the woodwork in the community that had a grandmother's famous recipe, or, you know, they had a Dutch background, or, you know, wherever crepes come from, you know, different places, different cultures. And so all of that was built from these different recipes.
And I love that it was such a community effort.
Mm-hmm.
People maybe don't know that, don't realize that, but it, you know, in the whole slogan, it takes a village, just like it takes a village to wrap around the kids in our community, it takes a village to wrap around people who need us the most. And so that's what happened from here. And then the crepery has become this, I guess, really part of the program. Is that right? Is that the women in the center get to work on their skill set, because a lot of them have maybe been out of the workforce for a long time
or never in the workforce. And so that's the coolest thing. And we'll touch on this in a minute here, but we have a very large First Nations population, which is super amazing and just an answer to prayer. And many of these women quite honestly have never had a job, never had customer service, had been in such fear and had so much stigma from their addiction. So this has been a great way to break down barriers with the public. And these women are often told, people just engage, their testimonies are shared, their stories are shared. I've had so many women come in as clients because of a story that was shared from a woman at the crepery. So it really breaks down that shame and guilt around addictions. So it has done things far greater than I could have ever imagined from just making crepes.
When I know so many of the ladies that I've had the opportunity to talk with have shared so much that to go out and apply for a job, they probably wouldn't have. And
right,
then
and
you're going to fall back into this nasty world, whereas they get to just come in and do that. And I think the community, I mean, for the most part, has been really great at accepting, you know, maybe it's not going to be the most best customer service you've ever had in your whole life on that one day, right? Everybody has ups and downs, but I've never had a bad experience there. I don't think most people have. I think ultimately these women are stepping into the forefront of full-on customer service better than people who've worked customer service for 25 years. Like, they are rocking it, and it is so cool. And I think it was just such a brilliant opportunity to create more business and to offer something that helps build the skill set of these ladies. Like that, it blows my mind. It really does.
It really has far exceeded. Like I said, I don't really have any expectations. I've never worked in the restaurant industry, not my forte. And the giftings and talents of the women, as you've seen. So we've got women that are doing jewelry that we sell some of that. There, we started a clothing line from a woman that had a 10-year fentanyl addiction. I think she'd had 10 times where she was coded actually as dead. And so she's now launched with her social marketing. She's actually going to be doing some stuff for us next month as kind of a gift back. But she is actually now has a full business that, you know, her family never believed she'd ever even make it into her 30s. So that's really miraculous. And that was our Narrow Road Home clothing line was sold. So there's so many things, the offshoots of this, seeing the giftings and talents in these women. And I kind of look at it as we do open heart surgery and then some mining for the gold. And that's usually there right below the surface, but you just needed someone to go mining, you know, or to, you know, sometimes just pull those roots out that were keeping them stuck and sick, right? And so we have an amazing staff that works tirelessly to do that.
Well, and I think it's like comparative to anything in the world, like anybody in community who has an idea or a dream or wants to do something and they're not sure. And the first step is people require permission, right? In a weird way, you have to say, yes, it's a great idea. Do it. Like, we're gonna help you grow. And you've done that so many times with so many different things with women who have come through the program. And then it would be almost a year ago, right in the midst of a pandemic, stops you. Decided to launch dream number 2, and that was the tea house. Tell us about that.
Well, yes, the tea house has been, so up until this fall, this house has been our kind of like our transition house. It started out, the brick house that we began in was kind of where we did a lot of the one-on-ones. It was sort of the family healing center, and that was also where women that have kind of left first stage and frontline, kind of diving into intensive programming, had moved into that house on 440 McLeod Trail. So that was really an amazing place where women could start doing their schooling, right, and decide what career path they want to take and start doing life responsibly, but while they're still under the umbrella of the program and still attending groups and whatnot. And so, at the beginning of in the fall here, we were able to, after a labor of love from another group that heard about us through one of our girls sharing her testimony. Brittany, our program manager there, she's shared her testimony, and Nina McKenzie heard this, and she happens to have this amazing company that builds things and builds manufacturers and builds, I don't want to, I'm probably just demolishing what they do, but they build things like amazing things. And
they're magical. Yeah,
and manufactures, these whole markets, right? And so they came in and literally transformed, as you could all, if you live in High River, you would literally see this amazing facelift transformation that happened. And I mean, that was something, sure, I had the vision, but we certainly didn't have the money to do this. So it was a very large donation of the, not just the finances, but hundreds and hundreds of hours with their team coming in and transforming, which is now the Noble Tea House. The cool thing about the Noble Tea House is it's, first of all, it was named after the Noble family, John and Ann Noble, that built that, and I wanted to honor them. But also, the history of that in the town, but just from some family members that came a part of helping do the menu and naming the teas historically from all the people in the MDF foothills to, we are actually able to have some paid staff here, which is amazing. And these are graduates and alumni. There still is, of course, women that are volunteering there from the home. And then, of course, the profits from outside of, after all that, come back to the program. And it's another way to keep us going, because quite honestly, we're in the toughest spot we've ever been in right now. Having the crepery shut down for that amount of time. It's still shut down right now, actually, because we're renovating. And so those things have never on time. And so hopefully we will be opening March 17th. But, this has just been an amazing gift to have these things where I don't believe we'd still be able to keep going if we didn't have these businesses. Well, I know we wouldn't be able to keep going.
And I appreciate so much you taking time to kind of chat with us about it, because I think that it is so amazing the way that you and your team have found ways. And I think the next most overused word coming out of the pandemic is pivoting, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I need to thesaurus the word pivot, but you've found ways to keep it going. And so they're not regular businesses. They're not run the same as a regular business. The same as your treatment center is not run the same way a regular treatment center is, because you have to find the way. You have to find the way that helps the people. And for anybody who can't wrap their brain around that, I'm sorry, but we're going to keep on going, and you can stay over here confused. But those who love the fact that there is innovative ways to grow community and to help people recover, here's an example. And for people watching in other communities, I would invite you to connect with Kim and pick her brain when you get the chance, because she is an incredible resource to help people in any community around the world. And I applaud you, my friend. You and your team you have been in the trenches, making sure people get the help they need. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And that's the real life face of recovery. Yeah. But if just one person, I always say, if just one person turns their life around, and I've met a dozen of them at least, that has worked, that's amazing.
It is what keeps me going. I mean, there's some days where it's really tough. I see this with some of your listeners there. Some of them actually have been donors to the program, have come in and shared their stories. And that's beautiful, because if it weren't for them, I mean, long before we had the crepery and the tea house, and then we still need stuff. I mean, that's still not enough. Our needs are growing exponentially. My phone is ringing off the hook. I need another house for sure. I don't know how we're going to keep going with the one transition house. We'll figure that out, but God's going to provide. But yes, there's lives at stake. And if we can forget sometimes about, and you know what, we haven't done everything perfectly, Jody. I've made mistakes along the way. There's things I should have done, shouldn't have done, and that's about the growth and the learning. I'm super imperfect, right? We're all imperfect, right? But I have lots of growth that I still need to do and learning. And I've never done this before, right? All I know is that there's areas that we don't qualify for being a private business. And so we need to make this work. Yeah. And so, I've got a bit thicker skin now. I'm kind of a sensitive person. So when I do hear rumors or gossip sometimes, or people, think that we shouldn't be getting funding or shouldn't be getting something, that is a little hurtful, because I wish they would just come in and see what we do and see the lives of the women that do come in from the streets. Most of our population, a lot of them, half was probably from incarceration. So they certainly are not coming in with any type of support, family or governmental. And so we don't want to ever turn anyone away. And a lot of those ladies have turned out to be our greatest gift and our greatest entrepreneurs and our greatest success stories. So, who am I to judge? And I don't want to ever judge. And I see the gold in these women, right?
Yeah, I don't want that. I don't want that job. Not ever. No, I mean, I probably, being human, I have some judgy moments. I will. I
all do. Yeah,
I stand in my truth in that, but I don't want to be the judger. No, thanks. But we could probably, honestly, we could talk for hours. I think we need to do an ongoing show. You will become a character now in Coffee Club, and we will check back in with you. That's like everybody who comes in. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to circle the wagons back and check on you in a little bit, because you're doing really cool things. And I just want to take a moment and share some of the comments that have been happening while we're talking.
Trellis, I can see them now. Okay.
Best staff and omelets ever.
Thank you.
I always bring in interesting guests. Of course I do. Kim has done an amazing job of combining recovery with business, baby steps back into the real world, ultimately supporting the individual and helping our community. You're an amazing lady.
Thanks, Tara. That's awesome. You make me cry this morning.
Really good news. Good going. Someone said 2 power ladies right there.
Hi, Ross.
So good. So keep up the good work. And I think the exciting thing is that there is some growth and healing and some cool things ahead to help a First Nations community. And I can't wait until you share the news with us on what that looks like.
Yeah, in 2 weeks, we are going to be going outside of High River. And so I can probably say in 2 weeks' time, and that's where I would love to come back with some of our women and their stories, Jody, if you'll have us.
I would love that.
We are going to be collaborating and moving ahead with a beautiful group from our First Nations family. And we are so excited to be able to share that even more in a couple of weeks. So yeah, God is on the move at Narrow Road Home with these amazing women.
Yeah. And I don't ever we'll circle back, but I'm going to say something that sounds like a little bit of a downer for a second. But the reality is going through this pandemic, and I'm not going to soapbox isolation and different things that happen, but we know without a doubt that addiction issues happen in normal years. We know that it's going to be expedited growth. There is going to be a lot of hurt to heal in the years ahead and in the months ahead. And I know that this program is going to be needed more than ever. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at that. So anybody watching, just the reality of going through something that is just traumatizing, like trauma comes in a bunch of different forms. Going through this pandemic, people losing jobs, people being uncertain what happens, that's going to create issues where we need to heal trauma. So I invite you to go to this website down here to learn more about this program. And if you have it in your heart to support that in any way, shape, or form, I invite you to just investigate a little bit further and learn more about it. And that's all I'll say about that, because I don't want to end on a sad note, but sometimes we have to end on a real note, right?
Absolutely. It is real. And it is already was a pandemic, and you're right, exponentially. We're in big trouble if we don't have more lights in the darkness. So we want to do our best here. So
be a lighthouse, everybybody. This is we get to be lighthouses. And that is a really cool gig that we're given from our creator. So be a freaking lighthouse.
We need a lighthouse t-shirt.
I know. I need to make those.
Maybe. You never know.
But the other fun thing, I think every time we get together, we have to do one coffee club where you just come on to just giggle with us, because I think you work in a serious field. You deal with a lot of heavy things, but what people don't know about this awesome lady right here is that she is actually hilarious. And she is so fun. And when she gets the opportunity to take off the backpack and just be the real, like that real soul sister that was created in there, you're pretty freaking dynamic, Missy. And so I look forward to
that's why my tissue
you getting more opportunities to be that woman, because she's even more dynamic than the one that carries the heavy backpack. So
that means more than you could know. Thank you. It's that's a real gift, Jody. So love you.
Yeah. Thank you. And we went way over, which I knew we would, but only by 10 minutes. Okay. But again, anybody, check out narrowroadhome.com, check out the Noble Tea House, check out the Narrow Road Crepery. And if you know somebody who is hurting and could use support from this, please have them or you reach out, or the family, because nobody gets left behind.
Absolutely. And that's the most important. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. And happy Friday to everybody.